Through 7 games, the Milwaukee Bucks remain the only undefeated team left standing. Giannis has been playing the best basketball of his career, rightfully earning buzz to win his 3rd MVP award, but the rejuvenation of Brook Lopez and their team defense as a whole has been absolutely incredible, helping them dominate anyone who stands in their way. But just how are they doing it, and how good are they? Defense is the identity of this Milwaukee team, as it has been for the entirety of their years as a contender. So far this season, their defensive rating has been 9.5 points better than the league average, which is the highest mark of any team in NBA history. Their philosophy on that end of the floor is centered around protecting the paint at all costs, and I don't mean running shooters off the line and funneling them into shot blockers, but layering their coverages in a way that prevents opponents from ever getting there. This means you'll rarely find them taking huge risks or playing over aggressively on the perimeter, and because they aren't putting themselves in these unfavorable situations, it's extremely difficult to actually break them down and generate an advantage. Their players understand that in order for the system to work to its fullest potential, they're going to have to concede some decent looks, as long as it means keeping the ball in front. And they do this beautifully by going under screens whenever they can and overplaying the nail to force wider attacks. At this point, they've just about mastered the art of drop coverage, in large part due to Brook Lopez's ability to serve as the anchor. He doesn't have a ton of traditionally athletic traits, he's not very vertically gifted, and certainly not the quickest big on the floor, but he's able to defend the paint at a high level due to his masterful positioning. He's seemingly always in the right spot to turn away interior threats, and does a phenomenal job at forcing pick and roll ball handlers to live in that mid-range area. Here, Kyrie comes off a screen that essentially leaves him in a one-on-one with Lopez and downhill momentum. But because Brook is fine with giving him that space to pull up, Irving doesn't really have an angle to get around him, picking up his dribble and getting blocked. On this one, notice how as Houston tries to use a 2-man game to free up Jalen from his defender, Lopez just sits in the lane, and because he's in position to take away both a drive and pass to the roller, Green has to settle for a tough floater. Later in that same game, Jalen decides to instead reject the screen and beats his man off the dribble, but again, Brook is so deep that he's able to slide over and keep the ball in front of him, just snatching away this layup attempt. This is a testament to his elite shot blocking. With a 7'6" wingspan, great timing, and an ability to target the ball while remaining vertical, he turns away a great deal of attempts to score at the rim. And the scariest part is, he might not even be the best rim protector on his team. While he's defending the middle and focused on the primary action, on the backline, roaming the court, they've got Giannis, who's a pretty good defensive player himself. He's one of the rangiest athletes in NBA history, covering an insane amount of ground through his lengthy strides, agility, and speed, allowing him to help or gap heavily and still recover to the perimeter at will. He's almost like a free safety, relying on his all-time instincts as a helper to recognize the most imminent threat on each possession and rotate to turn it away. Here, Philly sets up in a way that leaves Tobias Harris with an entire side of the floor to isolate against the smaller Grayson Allen. Brook positions himself to take away the nail, while Giannis slides down to the weak side block. As soon as Harris starts to get around his man towards the baseline, he seemingly has a free run to the rim. But Giannis has other plans. This time, he's again on the weak side corner while Philly goes to a pick and roll. Lopez, in that deep drop, takes away Harden's drive and forces a shovel to the roller, and in almost any other situation, this would be a routine pull-up midi or downhill finish for Embiid. Instead, Giannis saw it coming from a mile away, rotated to cut it off, forcing Joel into a much tougher look. You'll rarely ever see him miss a rotation, with a non-stop motor and constant activity from wherever he's at on the floor, and due to his physical gifts, he makes a ton of high leverage saves. His ability to protect the rim is elite, but not in the sense that he's a mega shot blocker, serving as more of a deterrent, where he positions himself so perfectly that it's either a very difficult shot or a second guess decision from the offensive player. This is where he's at his best, when he can play off of weaker opposing shooters and freely roam the court or as a defensive playmaker, but his vast skill set also offers a level of role versatility that is essential in the modern era. Every night you're seeing different offensive styles, schemes, and players, and especially come playoff time, having flexibility in the types of lineups or strategies you can put out there is what separates good defenses from great ones. This is what makes Giannis so impactful on that end of the floor. He's not amazing on the perimeter, but moves his feet well enough to switch when needed, and if he does get beat, his ability to recover is unmatched, allowing him to play more aggressive coverages. As a man defender, he's a plausible option for most wings and forwards, and is strong enough to offer some resistance against bigger centers. On top of that, he's also developed into a pretty strong drop big himself, meaning that when Lopez sits, he can slot down to a primary position and they stick to their principles. Most commonly when he's playing the 5 like this, it's Bobby Portis who comes in as the low man, helping off of corner shooters and keeping up that size. But on rare occasions, when needed, they can deploy some ultra small lineups with Giannis serving as the lone big. Another reason this works so well is the versatility of Jrue Holiday. He's thought of as a perimeter stopper, and rightfully so, moving his feet and hips extremely well with super active hands, and navigating screens better than anyone. But he's also got this extremely strong core and huge quads, planting his feet into the ground and turning into a brick wall. He's got a really low center of gravity, rendering him an immovable object, just stonewalling drives to the basket, and when needed, switching onto bigs in the post and legitimately bothering them. He can guard virtually anyone, so what Milwaukee does is sticks him on whoever the opposing team's primary creator of offense is and trusts him completely, whether that means fighting through screens in the pick and roll, or as a chaser where they can fully commit to that drop, or in isolation where they can leave him on an island. He's rarely ever not in the primary action, but even when he's not, he finds ways to get involved. He's an awesome helper around the nail, stunting drives or tagging rollers, and gets a fair amount of off-ball steals, like on this one where Embiid isolates from the top of the key, gets Lopez with a fake, and has a seemingly free run to the basket until Jrue shoots from the opposite wing to just take it away. He's also outstanding at closing out, knowing how to take away passing angles while making perimeter shots more difficult, and he of course cannot be attacked off the catch. Holiday, Giannis, and Lopez are the driving forces behind this defense, offering a combination of perimeter brilliance, off-ball positioning, and protection of the rim that you can't find in any other trio, making it easy for the rest of the team to slot next to them. The entire Bucks roster has completely bought in, playing with tons of energy and activity, meaning that guys who aren't individual stoppers like Grayson Allen can find a valuable role by just following the team's rotations and staying engaged. Their usage of personnel is phenomenal, bringing the best skills out of every player, like with how they take advantage of Bobby Portis' size and length on the backline. Still, they do have very strong defensive role players on the wings. At age 36, George Hill is still a huge piece because although he lost some foot speed, he remains very lengthy with really strong instincts both on and off the ball, and dodges screens at a high level, allowing him to play both at the point of attack and as a chaser. The same applies to Wesley Matthews, who's another solid veteran that does good things in various spots, and Javon Carter, who applies a ton of pressure on the ball as a feisty, pesty guard defender. To round it all out, they're the best defensive rebounding team in the NBA, not only closing these possessions, but creating the opportunity to turn them into offense going the other way. Before we get into that though, I want to give a quick shout out to Basketball Index for helping with this analysis and the making of this video. If you're not familiar with the site, they provide tons of statistical measurements, tools, and easily accessible graphics to further guide your understanding of the sport. They offer talent grades on pretty much any aspect you can think of, and through their player profiles tab, I can easily compare them to other players around the league. Using Giannis's defense as an example, on this page I'm presented with various metrics metrics detailing his ability both on the perimeter and on the interior, along with how he stacks up against his peers. This is just one of the many useful tools found on the site that help guide me and many others through their analysis, and by signing up with the code VENUE30, you can get 30% off your first month subscription. I'll leave a link in the description below for anyone interested in signing up, and with that being said, let's take a quick look at Milwaukee's offense. If the ball finds Giannis off of a missed shot or turnover, it's getting pushed right at a recovering defense. For a 7-footer to move as well as he does with legitimate ball handling skills, it's unprecedented, making him a one-man fast break. Not only is he one of the best finishers ever, especially in the open floor like this, he's also a quick decision maker with awesome passing, drawing extra attention and freeing up running teammates. This is also their strategy in the half court, installing a more modern version of the 4-out, 1-in scheme that many championship level teams constructed around their elite bigs, but instead of playing through the post, they have Giannis controlling the middle of the floor. What they're doing is finding any way to get him downhill where he's virtually unstoppable, whether that means initiating the possession with a ball screen to get him a slight advantage, letting him isolate and break down his man one-on-one, or serving as a lateral screener himself with lots of quick handoff actions and pick and rolls. One of the reasons they added Jrue Holiday was that they needed a true playmaker to unleash Giannis as a devastating roller, someone who can handle the ball, make the right decisions, and pull up for jumpers when they're there. Giannis dives hard to get momentum moving towards the basket, and if he catches the ball anywhere near the vicinity of the paint, good luck stopping him. He's also a huge above the rim lob threat with a massive catch radius, making for some insane roll gravity that allows him to break defenses wide open without ever touching the ball. This is why Milwaukee constantly surrounds him with players who can make their open three-pointers and play off the catch, getting so many open looks just off of that sheer interior presence, and when variance is working in their favor, they just can't be stopped. He's also a nightmare in the short roll, putting the ball down and just obliterating everyone who stands in his way, while reading the defense well enough to consistently punish extra help in these spots. This holds true with his on-ball game as a whole, with that imposing of a physical profile and ability to handle the ball. When paired with his fluidity and masterful use of strides to carve out angles, he can get to the rim seemingly whenever he wants, where his finishing may just be the most lethal form of scoring in basketball, collapsing defenses with a sense of urgency and kicking the ball out to shooters. And while many have critiqued him as a one-trick pony over the years, he's added a ton of new mid-range counters to his game, so much so that he's also become capable of initiating from the elbow or on the block. Without Middleton in the lineup, they're essentially getting by off of this Giannis ball, while sprinkling in utilization of the skills Jrue, Lopez, Portis and company provide. Throughout this season, their offense has hovered around league average, throwing out these defensively slanted units with spot-up shooters that they know their two-time MVP can raise to quality heights, which he's been able to do through his absurdly efficient volume scoring and the amount of attention he draws. Whether this is a model that can hold up deep into the playoffs, only time will tell, but by that time both Middleton and Connaughton should be back in the lineup, and what they're doing clearly works for the time being, riding their near flawless team defense to an undefeated record, shutting down whoever stands in their way, and dominating the league. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website, podcast, and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of the Bucks and just how good you believe they are. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.